Part 49. Super Role Player. Author, Yuan-san Buletinji. Chapter 509. Ang Zi exhaustedly defended the Heat's counterattack, but the effect of this ball was not so great. Ang Zi was originally trying to redeem his mistakes. In other words, this wave of offense was originally an opportunity for the 76ers, but because of Ang Zi's mistakes, they almost missed this opportunity, and Ang Zi's strong defense in the backcourt only helped the 76ers. Saved this opportunity, and then used a three-pointer to narrow the gap behind him to 12 points. The game continued. The Heat's offense, Ang Zi continued to face LeBron James on the defensive end. At this moment, LeBron James has a cold complexion, because he just ate an Ang Zi big hat. That's fine. Chris Bosh also ate Ang Zi's big hat, 2 consecutive big hats. LeBron James felt that he had been humiliated by Ang Zi again, and he was determined to beat the block back just now. LeBron James gestured his teammates to pull away, and he also put on a singles posture. When his teammates completely emptied the penalty area, LeBron James did not delay, and directly began to break through. Facing Ang Zi's defense, LeBron James pulled the basketball to the other side, and then turned directly to the side, which was a breakthrough with the ball towards the inside. The speed from slow to fast is like a bull who has just started. James' breakthrough has always been fierce, but for Ang Zi, LeBron James has seen enough similar breakthroughs. Nicolas Batum once said that the most difficult player to defend in the league is LeBron James, because after the game with LeBron James, your bones have been knocked apart by LeBron James. But now Ang Zi has already gained some experience in defending LeBron James. Instead of fighting LeBron James, he entangled LeBron James sideways, waiting for opportunities to interfere or even risk all of LeBron James' shots. When LeBron James rushed into the penalty area, he leaned directly on an 11 beside him, and then jumped into the air. LeBron James's right hand is holding the basketball with one hand, while his left hand is reaching out to try to block Ang Zi's jump and block shots. This action is somewhat foul, but the referee generally ignores it. Therefore, it is not surprising that Ang Zi is naturally. After entering the league for 3 seasons, Ang Zi has understood how to fight within the referee's penalty scale. Facing LeBron James stretched out and tried to block his left hand, an 11 also stretched out his right hand and pulled it violently as LeBron James was blocking. 2 people collided in the air. Ang Zi did not back down, and LeBron James was naturally not to be outdone. Everyone's eyes gathered in the 76ers penalty area at this moment, and the 2 roared almost at the same time. LeBron James tried his best to keep his right hand away from him and an 11, while an 11 tried his best to extend his right arm, trying to block LeBron James' shot. The basketball was finally thrown to the basket by LeBron James, but this ball was already biased under the interference of Ang Zi's best efforts. The basketball slammed into the edge of the hoop, and then bounced back. Cole Aldridge, who was waiting on the side, got stuck and took the rebound. Flick the ball. Fast break. Front court James Anderson and Francisco Garcia accelerated their pace, but the Heat were ready to return to defense when LeBron James rushed into the post and forced Ang Zi's defense to lay up. So, the 1-goal fast break was also prevented by the Heat. Failed to make a fast break. The ball holding Francisco Garcia was experienced. He stopped and waited for the arrival of Ang Zi in the back court. Ang Zi quickly rushed to the front court. He received the basketball at the top of the arc. LeBron James also rushed to the front court at the same time and met Ang Zi. LeBron James didn't make a layup under the strong confrontation, and he was still a little emotional in his heart, so when he came to the offensive against Ang Zi in the front court, he directly pushed in front of Ang Zi, and the defensive end was very big. The referee didn't mean to call a foul. After all, Ang Zi's actions on the defensive end were not small for the ball just now. The penalty scale of this game is like this. The referee cannot be inconsistent. LeBron James also caught this loophole. Venting his dissatisfaction on the defensive end. but it was these hard pull and tearing movements that gave Anzi an opportunity for a quick breakthrough. He quickly leaned on LeBron James, turned and broke through, and directly added LeBron James. It is naturally impossible for LeBron James to let Anzi leave like this. He pulled Anzi's jersey and pulled Anzi in place. With a beep, the referee's whistle sounded. This ball must be a foul. LeBron James didn't complain, he went straight to the side, and because the number of fouls had not yet arrived, the 76ers could only restart the ball from the sideline. Anzi was pulling Pau Gasol to whisper at this time, and then he stood at the bottom corner on the other side, while Pau Gasol was standing at the top of the arc, when the referee handed the basketball to James Anderson, who was on the sideline. Anzi started directly, he rushed to the top of the arc, with the help of Pau Gasol's screen to throw off LeBron James for a half step, and received the basketball at the top of the arc. And when LeBron James just rushed to the top of the arc, Pau Gasol moved half a step again, and Anzi moved one step sideways, another pick and roll. The person didn't change, but he just blocked it again. Pau Gasol separated LeBron James in this way and gained an opportunity for Anzi to shoot. Anzi made a three-pointer from the outside, and no one interfered with him. There is no doubt that this three-pointer was made. Very strong. After hit the three-pointer, the point difference was reduced to single digits, 9 points. After the 76ers played in Anzi, they scored 2 three-pointers in a row, and the momentum to narrow the point difference was extremely violent. In the next round, the Heat's offense, LeBron James continued to play Anzi solo. He began to find his place again and again, and this time, he succeeded. Anzi's defense is not invincible. LeBron James succeeded in a layup and scored. The difference re-expanded to 11 points. For Anzi, the state of his teammates in this game is still quite good, and when chasing points, Anzi also chose to trust his teammates. After LeBron James used a layup to re-extend the point difference to 11 points, Anzi also assisted Pau Gasol on the offensive end to complete a mid-range shot, but unfortunately, this mid-range shot was missed. The basketball slammed on the edge of the basket, but Anzi happened to rush inside and grabbed the basketball directly. When the Heat saw Anzi grab a basketball from the inside, they immediately blocked it. Anzi's threat on the offensive end was so great that as long as Anzi got the ball inside, a lot of people rushed up. Containment. Anzi still didn't have any greed. He once again chose to pass the ball and pass to the outside line. This time, it was Francisco Garcia who received the ball. A three-point chance from the outside, Garcia hesitated for a moment, but still shot. The basketball flew a circle in the air, then hit the inner edge of the basket, and stumbled into the basket. Entered. The moment Francisco Garcia saw the basketball slip into the rim, he raised his hand and celebrated again. 3 consecutive three-pointers. After Anzi played, the 76ers had a three-point reign. The point difference continues to be reduced as a result, and only the last 8 points are left. Heat's offense, LeBron James breakthrough. This time, he continued to force his shots and shot mid-range jumpers. Anzi's defense was not a vegetarian. He once again interfered with LeBron James's mid-range shot. Then, turned around to counter-attack fast. After forming a 2-on-2 in the front court, Anzi attracted the defense of all the Heat and passed the ball to James Anderson. James Anderson did not waste a chance and rushed into the penalty area to make a dunk. 6 points difference, Anzi's efficiency is very high. At the end of halftime, the points difference was narrowed by Anzi. But in the next round, LeBron James continued to play Anzi, but this time, he chose to pass the ball. LeBron James is not a real person. He also knows that the efficiency of consecutive singles is actually very low, and the threat of his passing after breakthrough is still very huge. This pass gave an opportunity to directly tear it. Opened the 76ers defense, allowing Ray Allen to get a three-pointer. Ray Allen also seized this opportunity and hit a three-pointer, and the point difference became 9 points again. But back and forth to chase points and widen the difference, the 76ers still reduced the score to 3 points before halftime. At the last ball of the second quarter, within 6 seconds, Anzi took the ball from the back court, rushed to the front court and shot a long-range three-pointer. After the hurried flight, the basketball bounced directly into the basket. With an exclaim from the American Airlines Arena, Anzi hit a three-pointer at the buzzer, and the 76ers trailed the Heat by 3.64-67 at halftime. And Anzi, who was 50-50 with LeBron James in the first quarter, a wave of explosions in the second quarter and a sudden increase in defensive intensity directly opened LeBron James half of his position. At the end of the half, Anzi scored 29 points, plus 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, and 3 blocks. LeBron James's halftime data was slightly worse. He scored 23 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists and 1 block. The steal data is 0. Of course, LeBron James' performance in the halftime is already very good. It can only be said that Anzi's performance is even better. For the Heat, the halftime lead of 3 points is actually a matter of 1 goal. So, David Fizdale did not care, he made detailed arrangements during the intermission. But even so, when the second half started, the Heat were caught off guard by the 76ers. In the second half, the two teams played the main force, and the Heat had the right to the opening ball. But maybe it was the 15-minute break. They still need to find a touch. Under Jack Lauder's defense, Wade couldn't make a mid-range shot. Gasol inside the 76ers grabbed a rebound, and the 76ers switched from defense to offense. The Heat retreated quickly, the 76ers failed to make a fast break, they could only enter the battle of positions. Anzi played off the ball, he was lying in ambush in the corner, waiting for an opportunity to move. At the top of the arc, Nkaway handed the basketball to Pau Gasol. Pau Gasol then turned around, as if he was going to play singles, but also as if he wanted to cope with the offense. In this way, Pau Gasol attracted a certain degree of defense. And Anzi also started at this time. He slipped a lap from the corner to the penalty area, ran with LeBron James, and then stopped near the middle distance of the baseline to win a rare low singles opportunity. Anzi opened his hand for the ball, and Pau Gasol immediately gave out the basketball in his hand. Anzi faced LeBron James' defense with his back, low singles, and after 2 hits, he turned around and shot a jumper. With a squeaky sound, an arc was drawn in the air, and Anzi scored the goal perfectly. The score difference is still 1 point away. The Heat's offense, LeBron James chose to break through. After the breakthrough, he assigned the basketball to Bosh inside. After receiving the ball, Bosh wanted to play Pau Gasol alone, but Anzi followed LeBron James. When passing by Bosh, he directly stretched out his hand and stabbed the basketball. Pau Gasol got the basketball, and 11 turned his head and ran towards the front court. LeBron James also hurriedly turned his head back to the defense, but after all his speed was a step slower than Anzi. Anzi rushed into the Heat's half-court first. At this time, there was no one in the Heat's half-court. Only Anzi had LeBron James behind. Defensive player. Pau Gasol's pass came afterwards, but Anzi suddenly stopped after receiving the ball. Then he raised the basketball over his head. LeBron James was shook by Anzi. He didn't expect that Anzi would stop before he entered the penalty area. He couldn't stop the car and threw himself out. At this time, an 11 slowly raised the basketball, as if it was about to take a simple shot. At this time, Wade came out from behind an 11 again, stretched out his arm to block an 11's shot. But Anzi shrank his hand again and shook Wade directly with another fake action, and then slowly sent the basketball into the hoop. A fast break, Anzi used 2 consecutive fake moves to sway LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. If this is the Wachovia Arena, it would already be hot at this time. But even in the away game, the visiting team's bench swayed LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and finished scoring in Anxi. It was boiling. Good job. And Brett Brown jumped up from the bench and waved his fist. Turner Sports commentary was also full of cheers. Anxi's goal helped the 76ers complete the counter. And this goal was only the clarion call for the 76ers to counter-attack in the second half. They then took another 5 minutes to play a wave of 12:5 and gradually began to lead the Heat. When the 76ers lead came to 8 points, David Fizdale was forced to call a timeout. To be continued. 8 Super Role Player. Author, Yuen San Buletinji. Chapter 510. After the suspension of the third quarter, the Heat stabilized the situation. But Anxi left the field to rest in the second half of the third quarter, and the Heat failed to seize the opportunity to recover the score. After Anxi reappeared in the fourth quarter, the point difference was widened to 15 points. In the end, the 76ers maintained their 15-point advantage until the end of the game. They defeated by 107-92 and 15 points at home in Miami. The Heat. At the American Airlines Arena after the game, everyone raised their heads and looked at the scoreboard above their heads, showing an expression of disbelief. The 76ers actually won in Miami? Incredible. Although the 76ers can always win the Heat in the regular season, no one will be optimistic about the 76ers in the playoffs, even if the 76ers won a big victory at their home court in the last game. The trend of the game was as everyone predicted. The 76ers showed their strength in the opening game, and then the game entered the rhythm of the Heat. In the second quarter, even a wave of points difference was opened, leading the 76ers by 15 minutes. Just when everyone thought that the Heat had secured the victory, it was an 11 again. His appearance directly led the 76ers to a wave of Jedi counterattacks. Anxi was also the winner in the last wave. In the whole game, Anxi scored 45 points, 6 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals and 5 blocks, continuing to show his dominance on both ends of the offense and defense. In this game, LeBron James in the first half can still be compared with Anxi in personal performance, but in the second half, LeBron James seemed a little rushed under Anxi's stronger defense. In the end, he scored 38 points, 9 rebounds and 9 assists in the whole game. The personal performance is still very good, but compared with Anxi's performance at the critical moment, it is a little worse. Therefore, in this game, the 76ers still rely on Anxi's personal swing to win this extremely important game. The 76ers won away games, the Heat will face the strongest challenge in history. The 76ers won, the series reversed, and the Heat may be out early. After winning Miami home and winning 2 consecutive games, the 76ers are already on the way to advancement. The impact of the 76ers' victory in this game can be described as profound. Originally, the 76ers lost a home game victory. This was considered by the major media in Miami and North America to be the advantage of the Heat. For the 2 games in Miami, only the Heat needs to be stable. With a steady win, the suspense of the series will no longer exist. But now, in their first game in Miami, the 76ers have won and regained the home court advantage they lost. The 2 teams each lost a home win, and the balance of the game naturally began to change. If it was biased towards the Heat at the beginning, it is now biased towards the 76ers. Because of the recent 2 games, the 76ers have won both games and scored a total of 41 points. From this point of view, if the Heat do not make changes, they are really dangerous. The 76ers who won the game are very happy. In other words, the Heat are very unhappy. The Heat are very unhappy. Pat Riley summoned David Fizdale and asked David Fizdale to come up with an effective plan in the next game. He wants to see a hearty victory. But just these requests is enough for David Fizdale to scratch his head. The situation in the series is confusing. Although the Heat lost their home game, the total score of the series was only 1-2, and the Heat fell behind. For the Heat, winning the next game becomes crucial, because as long as they win the next game, the total score of the series will be tied 2-2, but in fact, there are still many media optimistic that the Heat can win the next game, because the 76ers' victory did not increase people's confidence in the 76ers too much. Originally, they thought that the 76ers weren't the Heat's opponents at all. The Heat are likely to sweep the 76ers and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, the 76ers' two victories have only allowed people to improve their evaluation of the 76ers. They now think that the 76ers Ren is one of the best teams in the East, and he is qualified to fight the Heat, but continue to beat the Heat in the next game. Many people chose to shake their heads for a simple reason. If the 76ers continue to win the next game, then the situation in the series will become the 76ers crushing the Heat to advance, which is obviously not in line with the status quo. Therefore, the chances of the Heat winning the next game are very high, and the odds of the American gambling company also show everything. They are infinitely optimistic that the Heat will win the next duel between the two sides. The atmosphere inside the 76ers is very good. After winning a crucial battle, the situation of the series will become clear. They have grasped the initiative of the series, and then play every game at their own pace. Enough for them to achieve their goals. Angzi also relaxed, but Angzi also understands that the next two games will determine whether the 76ers can win this round of the series. The Heat will definitely make changes, and the changes the Heat will make will definitely hit the 76ers' pain points. The next two games will be even more difficult battles. In Miami, where it's warm and cold, the 76ers are training relaxed, which is just like their mood. At the request of Brett Brown, Angzi accepted several interviews from local media in Philadelphia at the entrance of the arena. Backus's Tom Moore asked Angzi a few questions. The Phillies are still satisfied with the team's current performance, and this is also reflected in Tom Moore's questions. N2:1 lead the Miami Heat, can we expect more? Maybe it's not enough, but in the next game, we will continue to work hard to defeat the difficult opponent of the Miami Heat. In this series, you suppressed LeBron James on both offense and defense. Does this mean that your strength is far from LeBron James? This statement is incorrect. LeBron James is a formidable opponent. Every time I try my best to beat him, but I can't guarantee that I can beat him every time. If we win the Heat, will our goal this season become a championship? In fact, our goal this season has always been the championship. Every team that enters the playoffs has the goal of a championship. From Tom Moore's question, it can be seen that the Phillies at this moment are optimistic about the prospects of the team. However, because of this interview, Angzi suddenly felt a little pressure. The Phillies' desire for victory is huge. Now they have the advantage and they need to be further convinced to win, but Miami is not an easy opponent to deal with. The situation is far less optimistic than the Phillies imagined. The 76ers won 2 games in a row, maybe just because the Miamians have not woken up yet. To be continued. 8. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen-San Buletinji. Chapter 511. The fourth game between the 76ers and the Miami Heat continued at the American Airlines Arena. The tragic defeat of the last battle until 2 days later failed to relieve the Miami fans. The atmosphere in the stadium seemed a bit sluggish, far inferior to the fiery heat of the previous game. After the two teams played separately, there was no abnormality in the arena, but compared to the previous game, Angzi did find that there were a lot more fans in Miami in this game, even Floyd Mayweather, the American boxing champion, also appeared on the sidelines again. But this time, he wore the Heat's home jersey and was welcomed by the Heat's home fans. Seeing Mayweather, James Anderson also joked with Angzi while warming up, $250,000 is not a small amount. Mayweather also needs to be taken care of, and he will feel distressed if he loses. This is coming to supervise the battle. Angzi smiled and shook his head. Supervisor? Supervisor has a fart, we still have to win. When the game came, Angzi began to show his self-confidence. He wanted to use his self-confidence to infect his teammates. On the Heat side, David Fizdale also made some adjustments in this game. He summed up the lessons of the previous two games and then made adjustments to the team's lineup. Chris Anderson returned to the lineup and replaced Sean Battier. This change of David Fizdale's goal was directed at the team's frame protection and defense. David Fizdale believed that the Heat lost 2 games in a row. The reason is that they believed too much in the team's small lineup, so that after facing the 76ers, a strong inside team, the inside line was blown up, and the outside line was blown up by Angzi alone. Therefore, David Fizdale let Chris Anderson come back as a defender, intended to strengthen the team's defense. The game soon began amidst the noise of the American Airlines Arena. Omer Asik and Chris Bosh jumped the ball. Although Chris Anderson boarded, the Birdman Anderson was not tall enough and was disadvantaged in the jump ball. Obviously, we can only continue to let Chris Bosh jump the ball. This time, Bosh won the jump ball and the Heat won the opening shot. In the commentary, the Turner Sports commentator trio began to talk about the Heat's changes in this game. Craig Sagal first said, "In this game, the Heat put Chris Anderson back on. The goal is very clear. It is to strengthen the defense, but I think David Fizdale's adjustment is of little significance." Although a large part of the Heat's loss in the first 2 games was because Angzi exploded the Heat's defense on the inside and outside lines, Chris Anderson wanted to strengthen the team's defense and it was too difficult. Kenny Smith also thinks so. Chris Anderson's appearance can enhance the Heat's ability to protect the rim to a certain extent, but the Heat's problem with protecting the rim in the first 2 games is not big. This adjustment is just a superficial change. The adjustment is of little significance. I only hope that the 76ers will not be confused by the Heat's adjustment. Charles Barkley has a different view. "No, Craig, Kenny, I don't think you're all right. I think David Fizdale's adjustment is just a starting adjustment. David Fizdale, the idea is simple, let Chris Anderson protect the frame, and then block Angzi through all-round defense. From the first 2 games, as long as the Heat can guard Angzi, the game can be easily won. Don't believe me? Let's wait and see. The Heat will definitely strengthen their defense against Angzi." The argument on the commentary is not mentioned for the time being. In the Heat's first offense, LeBron James quickly broke through and scored the ball and gave Wade a plus. Wade shook Jack Lauder away. The mid-range emergency stop jumper shot. There was no sound. The game has just started, and Wade still has to find the feel. And then, it's time for what Charles Barkley calls to watch. 76ers offense. The 3 people in the commentary stand widened their eyes, hoping to show the Heat's targeted defense against Angzi in this game. While an 11 on the court knew nothing about this. In this game, he still followed the game of the first 2 games, playing off the ball first to help his teammates create opportunities. In the first round, Angzi did not participate in the attack at all. He just stood at the bottom corner for a while, and then when he rushed to the top of the arc, he helped his teammates open the space and won a ball handling for Pau Gasol. The chance to get into the basket. But in the face of Chris Anderson's defense, Pau Gasol missed a layup and the 76ers also failed to score. The rebound was snatched by Wade, and the Heat didn't mean to fight back quickly. They slowly advanced to the front court, and then Wade held the ball in the front court and organized the offense. James ran back to the high post, then took the basketball from Wade and faced Angzi's defense. He immediately broke through with a heavy shoulder and was blocked by Angzi moving 1 step, but instead of stopping his footsteps, he continued to break through and rushed into the penalty area against Angzi's defense. After 2 steps, LeBron James took 3 steps and continued to lay up against Angzi's defense. But Angzi's defense was too good for this goal, and the goal was not scored. In the 76 ERS offense, Pau Gasol got a chance on the last goal but didn't make a layup, so Angzi waited at the top of the arc as soon as the goal was over halftime, and waited until Mkaway held the ball for more than half of the time. After the game, Angzi asked for the ball, and he decided to play a single. Angzi just wanted the ball for a singles, and the Heat's defensive position changed and became a zone defense position. As soon as Angzi broke through, a Heat player immediately doubled over. It was Wade who doubled over. An 11 looked around and wanted to pass the ball, but the Heat's fast rotation defense did not give an 11 a good chance. Angzi also scored some 1-2 goals in the last game. Angzi was confident in this game, so since he didn't get a good pass, Angzi could only choose to continue to do it alone. But after an 11 forced a breakthrough, Wade seized the opportunity and reached out to steal the ball. With a snap, Wade took out the basketball. Angzi made a mistake. With a boom, the American Airlines Arena exploded for the first time since its opening. Angzi made a mistake. This is a successful defense. This is the commentary of the American Airlines Arena. And the Turner Sports Trio originally wanted to analyze the Heat's blockade of Angzi, but what followed was the Heat's fast attack. They could only look at the Heat's fast attack. The Heat's fast break is not fast, because the main body of their quick counter-attack is still in the penalty area to surround Angzi, so this wave of fast break is a bit reluctant. After passing to the front court, Bosch shot against the defense, but still did not make it. The rebound was protected by Asik. But at this time, Angzi on the court has already frowned deeply. The Heat have just completed a successful defense against Angzi. This defense looks like they're double teaming against Angzi in the first two games. The tactics have not changed much, but in fact there are still many changes. Craig Sagal only has time to analyze this defense at this time. And Charles Barkley echoed on the side, yes, the difference between the Heat's defense and the previous two games is that the Heat has an extra frame protector on the inside, which makes it difficult for Angzi's pass to play a role. Because no matter how the pass, Chris Anderson will ensure the safety of the basket inside, so Dwayne Wade and LeBron James can safely double-team Angzi, which also greatly increases the defensive pressure facing Angzi. Turner Sports Trio quickly analyzed the changes in David Fizdale's targeted defense of Angzi, but in fact, the appearance of Chris Anderson has not only added these to the Heat's defensive end. If Angzi breaks further, or even rushes into the inside, then Angzi will face an above-average blocker Chris Anderson. At that time, Angzi's best choice is to pass the ball. Passing may give teammates a better chance, but if you think about it, what about Angzi himself? David Fizdale's ultimate goal is to make Angzi misfire, whether it is to block Angzi to make Angzi's shots and iron, or block Angzi to make Angzi have to pass the ball. In fact, this goal can be achieved. So think about it carefully. The Heat's defensive goal in this game is very clear, that is, not allowing Angzi to score. To be continued. 8 Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 512. Angzi was caught in the quagmire of the Heat's defense. After playing for more than 2 minutes in the first quarter, neither team scored any points. The two teams have been fighting in the opening game. With the Heat's offense, Chris Bosh held the ball in a high position and turned around to make a ball for Wade, who was diagonally inserted into the penalty area at a high speed. Pau Gasol had to move towards the penalty area. At this time, he suddenly turned sideways again. Mid-range jumper shot. In the third minute of the first quarter, Chris Bosh hit the first point of the opening of the two teams. At this time, Angzi had already made one shot, missed, and made another mistake. The difficulty of the fourth game between the two sides in Chengdu was beyond an 11's imagination. The Heat seemed to be unwilling to let an 11 score. After Bosh scored, an 11's stubbornness began to take the upper hand in his brain. Looking back, the 76ers' offense, Angzi did not believe in evil, he decided to continue his own singles with the ball. After halftime, Anzi faced LeBron James with his back in the high post and played back singles. This trick is rarely used by Anzi in the face of the Heat. Before that, this trick was Anzi's ultimate move. Whenever the game could not open up the situation, Anzi would sacrifice himself at halftime. Singles, or backward jumpers, or breakthroughs, can always score at critical moments. The reason why it is useless for the Heat is because Anzi is too unlikely to push forward when facing LeBron James. It is a bit of a threat to use it as long as it turns around and jumpers, and it is a bit tasteless. But now, Anzi has to use it too. The Heat's defensive blockade is too strict. As long as they break through, they will immediately double team and assist in defense. After taking the ball with his back, the Heat won't double team immediately. That's how Anzi's opportunity comes. Anzi still has a certain degree of confidence in his fallback jumper. Facing the defense of LeBron James, an 11 shook his right hand, then turned to the left and shot a jumper. LeBron James jumped up and tried his best to interfere with his long arm. An 11's shot hit the edge of the basket and failed to score. But Anzi did not give up this style of play. He knew that this was the first goal in the opening game, and now he is still looking for a touch. So, after defending an attack from the Heat, Anzi made a comeback. Was still in the same position and playing the same way. After facing LeBron James with his back, Anzi did not seek to push forward. He just protected the basketball in his hands with his back, and then looked for a chance to turn back and shoot a jumper. Anzi once again received basketball in the high position. He continued to play back singles. The Heat have no idea of double teaming Anzi. The high back singles is a trick that Anzi often used before. Combining this trick, Anzi often plays in the high position. Making a fallback jumper, the hit rate is very impressive, but now the Heat seem to have not realized the threat of Anzi in this position. They actually have no plan to double team, Kenny Smith asked. Charles Barkley shook his head. The Heat's idea is very simple. They don't think Anzi can continue to shoot at this position, and kill the game. High post jumpers, even if the shooting rate is impressive, it will not go against the sky. Unless Anzi's hand feels against the sky in this game. Craig Sagal nodded in agreement. Fallback jumper is after all an offensive method of 4-up and 3-iron, and the efficiency is bound to not be too high. But Anzi on the court just refused to admit defeat. Still the same fake action, but LeBron James's defense was very stable and was not swayed by Anzi. So, when an 11 turned around again to make a jumper, LeBron James also jumped up, and then stretched out his big hand to cover an 11's sight. With a bang, it still missed. Anzi leaned back and took a jumper again. Now he is a bit obsessed with individual singles. Charles Barkley shook his head, and at this time, Asik grabbed the offensive rebound and repassed the basketball. Anzi continued to hold the ball, still playing singles with his back. At this moment, everyone is speechless. After hitting 2 irons in a row, Anzi is still reluctant to give up his previous offensive methods. So, the fans and commentators in the American Airlines Arena watched Anzi once again hit LeBron James in a high post, and then, in the same way, he shot backwards. This time, scream. The crisp sound of wiping the net sounded. The American Airlines Arena burst into exclamation. This time. The goal is scored. I actually scored. But it's not surprising that a backward jumper scores a goal. It's impossible to keep going. Yes, generally speaking, Anzi's fallback jumper is not efficient. Since the beginning of the game, Anzi has made 4 shots and only hit 1 goal. Hearing this commentary, the domestic fans immediately gave out a knowing smile. Isn't this the 4-pronged triathlon? Anzi scored 2 points, which was also the 76ers' first point in the game. At this time, the point difference on the field has become 2:2, and the two teams are tied, but the Heat have the right to the next attack. LeBron James started to hold the ball on the offensive end. He hasn't scored in this game. Only Bosch scored 2 points from a high post. After Angzi scored, LeBron James' offense asterisk was about to overflow. He launched an offensive from the backcourt with the ball, and after rushing to the front court, he did not stop for a moment, and went directly to the inside of the 76ers. An 11 entangled LeBron James sideways, but LeBron James rushed into the penalty area for a layup, and 11 still did not block. The basketball turns around the hoop and finally falls into the hoop. Scored the goal, 4-2, and the Heat took the lead. 76ers offense. When everyone saw Angzi stuck in the high position and received the basketball, everyone was speechless. It's still back singles. When will Angzi's back singles be played? Some commentators began to question an 11's professional attitude, but in the next second, he was beaten in the face. On the field, an 11 still turned around in the same way, facing LeBron James's defense that was not lost at all, and shot backwards with a jumper. Then, with a scream of basketball, he went into the hoop in a cool manner. Come in again. Angzi raised his hand excitedly. Go in again. 2 consecutive fallback jumpers hit. Did Angzi find the touch? This is Charles Barkley. He finally came to a question, because Angzi's 2 consecutive fallback jumpers made him feel a touch. It seems that Angzi really felt his jump shot after finding a high position. 4-4, the two teams continue to tie. But the next round, the Heat's offense failed to score. The defensive quality of the two teams in this game is not bad. The Heat blocked Angzi, and the 76ers defense is also in place. Wade's breakthrough jumper was interrupted by Jack Lauder. Asik was still inside. He steadily protected the rebound and passed the basketball directly to Angzi on the outside. The 76ers wanted to play a fast break, breaking the current tight defense of the Heat, and the Heat retreated very quickly. They guessed that the 76ers wanted to hit a fast break and counterattack, and they were just a honeycomb when Wade missed a shot. Retired. So, by the time Kawhi rushed to the front, the Heat had basically fallen into position at halftime. Angzi passed the basketball to Kawhi, and once again ran to a high post of 45 degrees on the right, then put his back against LeBron James and asked for the ball. Angzi once again asked for the ball in the high post. Let's see how the Heat will defend this defense. Will they double team? Craig Sagel's voice did not fall. Angzi just wanted to turn around with the ball. Dwayne Wade rushed over. Double teaming. Angzi has made 2 consecutive fallback jumpers, and the Heat also feel the threat. At this time, they will not tolerate any mistakes and take every goal seriously. And Angzi directly chose to pass the ball after encountering a double team, because there was already an opportunity for Jack Lauder on the other side. Angzi passed the ball, Jack Crowder received the ball, but Jack Crowder's open mid-range shot failed to make it, and it was just a shot. Birdman Anderson grabbed the rebound and the score was still 4-4. The Heat have the ball on the offensive end. This time it was still LeBron James. He passed Angzi through a pick-and-roll screen and hit a jumper from mid-range, giving the Heat once again to take the lead. And the next round of offense for the 76ers is still unchanged. To be continued. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletinji. Chapter 513. An 11 continues to take the ball in the high post, but now the Heat have taken precautions. They are starting to double team an 11. Is this kind of offense necessary to continue? Angzi didn't know the various questions on the commentary. He only knew that at this stage, the best way to score is to make a jump shot or pass the ball with his back. Tien Lai, fiction? This time, Wade's double teaming came again. Angzi continued to pass. Jack Lauder's chances were not good. He chose to pass again. After the pass again, the basketball came to Kawhi's hands. There was a large open space in front of Kawhi. He could choose to shoot 3-pointers directly or choose to break through. Kawhi hesitated. He chose to shoot 3-pointers directly. The three-point shot was a bit slow, but fortunately there was no problem in the process. The three-pointer under the big open, Nkaway still has a little accuracy. Scream, in 3 points. At 6:7, the 76ers reversed the score. The Heat quickly hit a wave of offense in the front court. LeBron James broke into the inside and scored again, reversing the score. 8:7, the score of the two teams was a little anxious. But at this time, the 76ers' offensive rounds become important, because whether Angzi's back-to-back possession of the ball can still be effective has become a question. Angzi continued to take the ball with his back. Wade's double teaming was a bit slow. Maybe it was because Angzi hadn't shot for 2 consecutive rounds. More importantly, Angzi had just torn open with a pass in the last round of the 76ers. The Heat's line of defense. Considering comprehensively, the Heat decided to let LeBron James try to defend Angzi alone. Since the Heat didn't mean to double Angzi, Angzi was not polite. After making no progress by hitting in the high post for a while, Angzi suddenly turned and pulled up, leaning back and making a jumper. LeBron James was also taken aback. He didn't expect Angzi to suddenly take a shot after a while, so James also slowed down his interference. In the end, he could only watch the basketball fly into the rim again accurately. 9:8, the 76ers once again reversed the score. In the middle of the first quarter, Angzi's back took the ball back and made a jumper. He made consecutive shots. By the second half of the first quarter, Angzi had already made 6 of 11 shots and scored 12 points. It's a pity that the Heat began to feel the threat of Angzi holding the ball in a high position, and began to strengthen their double teaming against Angzi, regardless of whether Angzi's pass was a pass or an opportunity. However, the game started when Angzi kept holding the ball with his back. The 76ers were not opened by the Heat. When the game reached more than 2 minutes left in the quarter, the 76ers were only 1 point behind. 27:28, Angzi's 12 points are very important here. Although there are only 2 assists, if you count the indirect assists, there should be 5 or 6. However, Angzi's constant back-to-back shots in high positions and backward jump shots are also a test of physical fitness. Angzi also made a lot of shots in the first quarter. With 11 shots, physical fitness is really not enough. So in this game, Angzi played for the first time. Brett Brown was replaced in the first quarter. With more than 2 minutes left in the first quarter, the Heat called a timeout, and Brett Brown took advantage of this opportunity to replace Angzi with James Anderson. But this change gave the Heat a chance. The Heat used the last 2 minutes or more to make a wave of 8:2. At the end of the first quarter, the Heat led the 76ers by 7 points with 36:29. And 11 did not play in the opening game of the second quarter, and Nkaway played with a substitute. But still the same, Angzi and Pau Gasol were not present at the same time, and the Heat seized a wave of opportunities to start a wave of 12:6, extending the point difference to 13 points. With Chris Bosh hit a three-pointer and the score came to 48-35, Brett Brown switched back to Angzi. Pau Gasol did not follow. James Anderson and Nkaway partnered in the backcourt. Angzi played the third position, and the inside was a combination of Jack Lauder and Cole Aldridge. On the Heat side, point guard Norris Cole, shooting guard Ray Allen, small forward LeBron James, inside are Chris Bosh and Chris Anderson. Although Angzi scored 12 points in the first quarter, Angzi also spent 11 shots. Calculating the scoring efficiency of each shot, it was only over 1 point. The efficiency is actually not high. So in general, the Heat's defensive strategy is correct. Angzi reappeared. David Fizdale also implemented the defensive strategy of the festival and continued to let Chris Anderson guard the inside. After Angzi reappeared, he tentatively made a breakthrough, but he was still resolutely double-teamed by the Heat. Angzi missed a shot forcibly, and the rebound was picked off by Birdman Anderson. The Heat fired a quick counterattack, and LeBron James caused Angzi's foul in the counter-attack. James stepped to the free throw line and made 2 free throws, extending the point difference to 15 points. 76ers offense, Angzi continued to take the ball from a high post, this offensive method that was tried and tested in the first quarter, but when he first appeared in the second quarter, it suffered a disadvantage. After Angzi turned around, he pulled up directly, and LeBron James jumped up along with it. This time, LeBron James desperately rushed to Angzi, forcing Angzi's shot to change shape. In the end, Angzi cast a 3-, which caused an uproar at the scene, followed by a cheer, the kind of cheers of gloat. Angzi made a 3-pointer. After re-entering the field, under the defense of LeBron James and Ray Allen, he seemed a bit at a loss. This is Craig Sagel's commentary. The on-site commentator was not so polite, an 11 threw an air ball, and he is dead. Did he shoot a pistol during the rest of the first quarter? Did he make himself frustrated? Haha. Angzi frowned. After relaunching, the feeling of the first quarter was a bit hard to find. However, after defending the Heat's offense, Angzi continued to hold the ball in the high post. This time, Angzi suffered another setback. The Heat made up the defense in time. Ray Allen cut off the basketball in Angzi's hands. Let Angzi make a mistake, and let the Heat play a wave of fast break. LeBron James succeeded in the front court, and the point difference widened to 17 points. Angzi made another mistake. After re-entering the game, his condition is indeed worrying. One air ball made one mistake, and another foul, which allowed the Heat to expand the point difference to 17 points. It seems that the pre-game odds of the gambling company are also reasonable. The Heat have begun to expand their lead. Angzi is completely guarded, and even Angzi can't fire. Who else can the 76ers count on? The overall situation of the game is set, the Heat will win the game and equalize the total score. Anxious commentary has confirmed the result of this game. Although the first half of the game has not been finished yet, Angzi's struggling performance can be seen by individuals. Up to now in the first half, Angzi has taken 12 shots and hit 6 goals, which is exactly 50% of his field goal percentage. However, in terms of scoring, Angzi only scored 12 points, and each shot is 1 point, which is extremely inefficient. After coming off the bench in the second quarter, there were even more mistakes. It seems that Angzi can't help, and the 76ers will no longer have the hope of winning this game. Turner Sports is relatively professional. Craig Sager is not so impatient, but now he is also worried about Angzi's state. Angzi played pretty well in the first quarter. The threat of getting the ball is great, but Angzi's performance suddenly began to decline in this quarter. There may be many reasons, but the most important question now is, can Angzi adjust back? On the field, with the 76ers offense, an 11 continued to take the ball with his back. This time, he successfully completed the fallback jumper, but he continued to beat LeBron James' defense against Angzi's shots. The Heat grabbed the rebound and scored 2 more points after a quick counter-attack. 19 points difference, Brett Brown walked to the sidelines and called a timeout. Compared with the previous game, LeBron James and Angzi have lost their positions. Angzi scored 12 points on 6 of 13 shots. The efficiency is extremely low. As of now, LeBron James has scored 16 on 7 of 12 shots. Points. There is no doubt that the better performance in this game is LeBron James. The on-site commentator began to tout James, and at this time, before the 76ers, it was a serious situation that was 19 points behind. What's more serious is that Angzi's state is terrible, and the team's offense is messy. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Role Player. Author, Yuan-San Buletinji. Chapter 514. Brett Brown frowned and paused. After writing and drawing on the tactical board, he looked directly at Angzi. "And, the team needs you to play off the ball next." "No ball?" Angzi was stunned for a moment, and then she understood. As soon as Angzi takes the ball, he needs to face the endless double teaming and defense of the Heat. In other words, as long as Angzi plays with the ball, the offense will be stagnant, so with this in mind, Brett Brown decided to let Angzi play off the ball. Let Angzi attract the defense by running without the ball, or throw the ball when he catches it. Such a change is indeed the best choice at present. Angzi will not object either. His off-ball has just been upgraded to 85 points some time ago, and this game can come in handy. Angzi agreed, and Brett Brown could easily arrange tactics next. Then, Paul, Pal, you play, replace Jay, Crowder, you and Michael, Carter Williams, will cooperate more in the high post, try to attract the defense. Paul can play a little more, but if Anna has a good chance, pass the ball to him. And 11 nodded. Brett Brown's adjustment actually changed the main attack point on the court, making Pau Gasol the main attack point, while an 11 attracted defense on the flanks. From the perspective of the Heat's defensive strategy in this game, this set the possibility of tactical success is very high, because the Heat can't ignore Angzi, and once they continue to guard Angzi, there will be many opportunities for Pau Gasol. In this way, at least the team's offense will come alive again. The timeout ended soon. Pau Gasol took off his jacket and walked onto the court. An 11 walked over and patted Pau Gasol on the shoulder, because this time, it was the first time that Pau Gasol could not stand up and end the game in Angzi. Next, had to take up the team's offense. Angzi worried that Pau Gasol would be under pressure. But Angzi obviously thinks too much. Pau Gasol is a veteran who has been in the league for more than 10 years. He has seen everything in the Grizzlies and the Lakers. This pressure is nothing to him. He smiled at Angzi, "Leave it to me, but you have to help me open the defense." An 11 nodded and returned to the court. Not surprisingly, LeBron James continued to follow Angzi stubbornly, and Dwayne Wade, who had just played, was also eyeing on the other side. The 76ers made a substitution and Pau Gasol played, but can Pau Gasol's appearance really bring changes to the 76ers? Charles Barkley asked. Kenny Smith has always been a supporter of the 76ers. When the 76ers were behind by a big score, he chose to temporarily shut up. Craig Sager took the topic. It's difficult. Since Pau Gasol joined the 76ers, he has performed fairly well. It is enough to serve as the 76ers' main attacker, but if the opponent is the Miami Heat, it is still a little far away. So I think the purpose of Paul Gasol's appearance should be to put a certain amount of defensive pressure on Angzi. Craig Sager hadn't finished speaking yet. On the field, Angzi hid in the bottom corner, and Kawhi and Pau Gasol cooperated in the high position of the arc depending on the situation. It should be that Pau Gasol should be the main attacker. Up. So Craig Sager smiled awkwardly, and then said, "The 76ers actually let Pau Gasol take the lead, which is a bit surprising, but Pau Gasol is the main attack. The 76ers want to fight back in this game. It's too difficult." This time Craig Sager was right. After Paul Gasol and Kawhi's continuous pick-and-roll cooperation, there was an opportunity in the middle distance. Pau Gasol shot directly from the middle distance, but unfortunately he missed the shot. The inside rebound was taken by James, and the Heat counterattacked. In this game, the Heat's fast counterattack has increased significantly. This may be another adjustment by David Fizdale, and the effect of the increase in fast counterattack is also obvious. Of the 54 points the Heat have currently scored, at least 1-0 is relying on quick counterattack to get. After counterattack to the front court, the 76ers quickly retreated to the back court. LeBron James lay up against Angzi's defense. This time, Angzi proved himself. LeBron James jumped up in the penalty area, stretched his right arm, and wanted to send the basketball in his right hand to the basket. LeBron James, who continued to force Anxi, but was not blocked, has gradually gained confidence, and he continues to force Anxi. But this time, Anxi did not let go of this arrogant ball. Anxi roared in the air, leaning on LeBron James, stretched out his left arm directly, attached the big yellow hand directly to the basketball, and then, with a muffled bang, the basketball was slammed into the sky by Anxi. It's covered. LeBron James is covered by Anxi. LeBron James is too arrogant. Anxi on the offensive end is not in good shape, but it does not mean that Anxi on the defensive end can be bullied. Anxi uses his big hat to let LeBron James know that Anxi on the defensive end is still the king. Kenny Smith held back for a few minutes, and Anxi's shots made him cheer again. Charles Barkley and Craig Sager were also happy. LeBron James's ball was indeed a big support. Anxi's offensive state was not good, largely because the Heat's defense was too tight, which does not mean Anxi's state is not good. At least on the defensive end, Anxi still defended LeBron James several goals, but this game hasn't blocked a shot yet. As a result, James continued to beat Anxi hard and gave Anxi a big hat, and Anxi took advantage of it. On the field, after Anxi big hat, he yelled excitedly. American Airlines Arena used booing to cover up Anxi's excitement. LeBron James's expression became gloomy again, but looking at the 19-point lead over the arena, LeBron James's good mood was back again. No matter how you cover me, the Heat will lead, right? Because the basketball flew out of the bottom line, the Heat hit the bottom line. The ball was directly given to Mario Chamos. After a dexterous sideways dribble from the outside line, Zioka wiped away in one step and made a jump shot. The basketball hits, the point difference is pulled to the point. The score difference is getting bigger, but at this time, the 76ers are not in a hurry. They began to patiently look for opportunities on the offensive end. Anyway, at this moment they are already behind. Regardless of whether they are chasing points or not, it depends on the state of the team. If they are in good condition, they can recover most of them in one wave, but they are not in good condition. It's okay to give up strategically in this game. Even if they lose the game, the total score is only a 2:2 tie. But if they win this game, the total score can be 3:1. For the 76ers, this game is naturally not to the point of giving up. They still need to fight, but the lagging point is more than 2 points. Even if it is unsuccessful at the end of the fight, it does not matter, after all, the difference is too big. And put down the impatient 76ers, but made a breakthrough on the offensive end. Pau Gasol took the ball from the middle distance, attracted the defense and then gave the ball to the open cut Nkaway. Nkaway rushed into the inside and dunked successfully, reducing the point difference to less than 2 points. Heat's offense, LeBron James is no longer a big support. After rushing to Anxi, he did not choose to eat, but chose to divide the ball and give Chris Anderson to the basket. Chris Anderson dunked at the basket. The point difference returns to the point. Returning to the offensive end, N11 gradually began to show his threat without the ball. Sprinted towards the penalty area from the bottom corner, suddenly ran backwards, flung LeBron James away, and then made another sharp turn, turning to the top of the arc. LeBron James hurried, but was stopped by Asik on the way. Unfortunately, Anxi failed to get the ball this round. Because of Anxi's running, Wade saw that LeBron James couldn't keep up with Anxi. He had to drop Jack Lauder and ran over to make up the defense. As a result, he gave Jack Lauder a golden opportunity. Jack Lauder went to the bottom corner, received a pass from Nkaway, took a three-pointer, and hit the shot. 56-38, the 76ers reduced the difference to 18 points. The 76ers turned around to defend. After the Heat's front court cooperation, the ball was given to Wade. Wade broke into the penalty area and missed a layup. But Chris Anderson grabbed the rebound and made a tip. 58-38, 2-0 points difference, the 76ers still see a little hope of chasing points, so back to the offensive end, they began to work harder. Angzi continued to run without the ball, and his 85-point off-ball attribute is still very strong. He is a rare off-ball genius in the history of NBA. Some running, once again disrupted the Heat's defense, but Angzi himself still failed to score, but it gave Asik a chance to play on a RBA11. Angzi ran to empty the inside, and Pau Gasol hit the ground. The ball passed into the penalty area, and Asik caught the ball dunks, which is considered to be the return of the Birdman Anderson supplementary dunk. 58:40, and after a wave of offense from the Heat, the score narrowed unhurriedly. But at a critical moment, the 76ers also made a mistake in their offense. Kawhi's pass passed to James. LeBron James completed the steal and hit a wave of fast counter-attacks to re-extend the point difference to 2-0 points. As the time of the game progressed, halftime was approaching, and the 76ers wanted to continue to narrow the points difference before the end of the halftime, and it became much more difficult. However, with Angzi running without the ball on the offensive end and Pau Gasol constantly taking the ball on the offensive end, Angzi found that his defensive pressure was much less. So an 11 also started to try some big moves. 76ers offense, an 11 still ambushes in the bottom corner. At the beginning of this offensive round, an 11 didn't move. He seemed to be waiting for the opportunity in the bottom corner. But after a small cooperation between Pau Gasol and Kawhi in the middle, they took the ball and went to the inside to kill. When LeBron James suddenly rushed to the inside to make up for defense, Angzi knew that his chance was coming. Wade rushed over from the other side to make up for Angzi's omissions, but Angzi is not a player who just waits in place for a chance. He ran towards Wade. Wade is still a bit unclear. So, when he and Angzi met in the middle of the road, and Angzi ran to the other side, and then was blocked by a wall of people halfway, Wade knew that he was fooled. Angzi. He suddenly moved and got a chance to be in the bottom corner. Does Kawhi pass? The ball was in Kawhi's hands. After Angzi used a seek screen to get rid of Wade's defense, the opportunity was only for a moment. He could only raise his hand for the ball. Kawhi would not give it, or could he give it in time? None of Angzi can decide. Kawhi finally gave it, but he passed it a little bit slower. Wade rushed to Angzi, and the basketball appeared in Angzi's hands at the same time. But at this time, Angzi had already aimed at the rim. The basketball was out of the scabbard like a sword, facing Dwayne Wade's defense, shooting. Angzi's three-pointer. Can this goal be scored? This is an 11's shot after the timeout. I wonder if his hand feel has recovered. If Angzi heard this question, he would definitely sneer. If it hadn't been for the Heat's strong defense, his shooting would never have a touch. As expected, the next second, with a scream, the basketball hits the frame. Bring up a burst of white net flowers. Angzi hit a three-pointer. This was Angzi's first scoring after the timeout, and of course his first scoring in the second quarter. A three-pointer was made in one go. Wade and James were annoyed. In order to chase Gasol and Kawhi, they missed Angzi on the outside line. David Fizdale on the sidelines was even more annoyed. LeBron, you don't need to make up your defenses. Keep an eye on Angzi. Keep an eye on Angzi. 6:43, the point difference narrowed to 17 points, 1 minute left from the end of the half. The Heat attacked. LeBron James made a ball to Bosh inside. Bosh turned and missed a jumper. Jack Lauder grabbed the rebound. The 76ers slowly advanced to the front court. As early as when Angzi could not hold the ball, the 76ers offense fell into a positional battle. The quick break is not available, and they can only look for opportunities in the half-court battle. Angzi still wants to do some big moves this time. He feels that his state is getting better. This time, although he didn't direct anything, when he rushed to the front court, an 11 patted Gasol's butt, and Gasol would pay it back. Angzi continued to ambush in the bottom corner, while Nkaway spent some time in the front court before moving towards the inside. He quickly came with Pau Gasol to cooperate with him, handing over the basketball to Pau Gasol. After Pau Gasol held the ball, his moving position began to lean towards Angzi, and at this moment, Angzi moved. He pretended to rush into the penalty area from the bottom corner. With the starting action, LeBron James could only twist half of his body. An 11 suddenly turned, rubbing LeBron James's shoulder and rushing towards Pau Gasol. At the start, LeBron James was a step slower because of Angzi's feint. After Angzi rushed to Pau Gasol and made a hand-to-hand cooperation, Pau Gasol attached his hands in front of him and blocked LeBron James. And Angzi rushed beyond the three-point line and got another good chance. Although Mario Chamos dropped Nkaway and rushed over, there was still no obstacle to the part of Angzi's vision. He aimed at the basket and made another three-pointer. Angzi found a good opportunity. His running has an effect, 3 points, Kenny Smith shouted, and as the crisp sound of wiping the net sounded, Kenny Smith yelled excitedly, "Go in! Go in!" Angzi hit another three-pointer. This is the second in a row. The second consecutive three-pointer. Before the end of halftime, the 76ers achieved good results in chasing points. Angzi scored 2 consecutive three-pointers and they narrowed the difference to 14 points. The game regained hope. On the sidelines, David Fizdale didn't make any expressions this time. LeBron James was played by Angzi's off-ball running. He really had nothing to say. There are 32 seconds left from the end of halftime, and the Heat controlled the time, playing until 24 seconds before making a shot. The purpose of time control is simple. They don't want the 76ers to have more time for the final attack. But the result of this control is that under Angzi's perfect defense, LeBron James made a hasty shot at the buzzer in the last 24 seconds. He directly shot a 3 non-stick. An 11 smiled. His defense is an honor BA11, because an 11 also made a three-pointer under LeBron James' defense before. Because the Heat played for 24 seconds, the referee set the time back a bit. In the end, there was a little more than 6 seconds left and the 76ers backcourt. Nkaway waited for the ball in the backcourt, but Angzi did not leave the backcourt. "Give me the ball, Michael." When Nkaway heard Angzi's words, he didn't fight, and nodded immediately. A Sikh backcourt, basketball was given to Angzi. A little more than 6 seconds, Angzi dribbled the ball in the backcourt at first, but it was slow. But when LeBron James was about to get close to him in the audience, Angzi suddenly increased, and then, in the countdown of the audience, rushed through half of the time. 3 steps away from the three-point line at halftime, Angzi rode an arrow and threw the three-pointer. The time is just right. The moment the basketball is shot, the timer lights up in red. Angzi's buzzer is a three-pointer, the distance is too far. It's Craig Sagal. He has been beaten many times in this game, and this time it is the same. He hasn't finished his words yet, he screams. The basketball rubbed into the basket crisply. It's in. It's actually in. Craig Sagal has an incredible face, as do all the Miami fans on the sidelines. This goal actually scored. A long three-point buzzer? Go in. Everyone can't believe it. Angzi's last horseback and archery three-pointer actually made it. The entry is still so precise, rushing in after wiping the net flowers. As for the coaches and bench seats on the sidelines, they looked at the referee for the first time. The referee signaled that the goal was valid, and the 76ers bench suddenly boiled. The goal is valid. 3 points plus, that's it, halftime is over. The 76ers are only 11 points behind the Heat with 49:60. From the most points behind, to the end of the halftime chasing down to only 11 points behind, Angzi's 3 consecutive three-pointers is obviously to remember a great effort. Not only that, but Angzi's several successful defenses against LeBron James also require meritorious. In other words, When everyone thought that Anzi was misfired and the 76ers could only rely on Pau Gasol to chase points, Anzi was the last one to stand up. Is still a special Anzi. Maybe the fans in Miami need to ask, "Hi, one eyes you. Why always you?" To be continued. 8 Super Role Player. Author, Yuen San Buletinji. Chapter 515. The 11-point difference at halftime looks great, but if you combine it with the 21-point difference that was most behind, it's nothing. Tien Las novel. The 76ers saw the hope of victory, and in the locker room, Brett Brown also unexpectedly praised the team. "Boys, what I want to say is that you did a great job, especially in the last few days of the first half." In minutes. Brett Brown is obviously not telling the truth. He is sincerely praising the team. To be honest, the 76ers encountered a lot of difficulties in this game. When Brett Brown was behind the team by as much as 2 points or more, he was there. Give up the idea of this game, but in the case that no one thought, Anzi stood up. 3 consecutive three-pointers. Anzi, who just made a misfire in the second quarter, exploded in a non-Anzi way. Of course, this method is actually very Anzi, because Brett Brown knew that Anzi played in the early days of the Spurs' career, and that is how Anzi helped the Spurs win 2 championship trophies. By running without the ball, the chance to get an open three-pointer, but the current Anzi seems to be even better without the ball. In the second half, Brett Brown decided to continue playing like this, because he didn't think the Heat would give up the defense against Anzi with the ball, so he continued to let Anzi play off the ball and swing himself as much as possible without the ball. Only in the second half can the 76ers have more opportunities. Although there is only 15 minutes during the intermission, several people in the commentary booth have been arguing. Anzi's 3 three-pointers exploded, making the 76ers once again see the hope of winning. Kenny Smith insisted that the 76ers will sound the horn of counterattack in the second half because of Anzi's 3 three-pointers, and Charles Barkley believes that Anzi's 3 three-pointers were shot in a very short period of time. The Heat did not make any special arrangements, so there was no more attention on the defensive end, which allowed Anzi to seize the opportunity. Once after the meticulous arrangement of the intermission, it would be difficult for Anzi to get such an easy three-pointer in the second half. Craig Sager supports Charles Barkley, because it is clear that Charles Barkley is more of a sensible commentator. But Kenny Smith insists on his own point of view. He believes that Anzi has the ability to make the impossible possible. The second half of the game started in a noisy, 11-point lead or lagging is not too big. The 76ers in the first half also chased a wave of 10 points. If the second half continues to play the offensive and defensive at the end of the first half, it is only time to recover the 11-point lag. At the beginning of the second half of the game, the two teams were all the main players. The two teams tested each other and exchanged each other. After a few rounds, the score was maintained by the Heat. The game played until the 8th minute of the third quarter. The 76ers have been chasing points, but the point difference did not change much. The Heat used a smooth offense in the second half to maintain the point difference. Instead, they took advantage of Anzi's middle end to rest for 2 minutes. He expanded his lead by 3 points and expanded the difference to 14 points. Then Anzi reappeared in the 8th minute of the third quarter. When he came out, he turned his head and glanced at the score on the scoreboard. It was 58-72, 14 points behind, and wanted to catch the difference to single digits before the fourth quarter. It still needs a little effort. Anzi was replaced, which is not good news for the Heat. Anzi took a 2-minute break off the court and came back vigorously. The Heat's defensive pressure increased greatly, and the 14-point lead seemed less secure. For the Heat fans on the sidelines, although the Heat have been leading in this game, they always watched with fear. The main reason was Anzi's three-pointers at the end of the first half, which made everyone feel Anzi's offensive end. The explosive power of scoring. Re-enter the field, Angzi's defensive treatment is still the same as in the first half. LeBron James sticks to the defense, other Heat players are ready to defend. Therefore, Angzi is still the same as the last stage of the first half, not controlling the ball and playing off the ball. Of course, even if it is off the ball, an 11 has to do something. In the first round after playing, an 11 made a pick and roll from Kawhi at the top of the arc, and then went straight down. But the chance to go down is not very good, because LeBron James closely follows Angzi. But even if the opportunity is not good, as long as the Heat don't mean to guard Angzi, Angzi thinks this is a good opportunity. So he opened his hand to ask for the ball, and then jumped up in the penalty area under the incredible eyes of many people. Kawhi threw the basketball into the air, and Angzi also jumped up. LeBron James immediately judged that this was an air coupling match. Therefore, he also jumped up and wanted to destroy Angzi and Kawhi. This time the air receiving cooperation. But LeBron James took a step slower. Chris Anderson, who was inside the Heat, was more timely. He met an 11 in the air, but an 11 was the first to touch the ball. Angzi grabbed the basketball with his right hand, held Chris Anderson's shoulder with his left hand, and dumped it directly toward the hoop. Clang! With a loud noise, Angzi dunked the basketball into the hoop across Chris Anderson. Air reception cooperation. Angzi still played without the ball, but for this shot, he used his foresight and his physical advantage over the old Birdman to smash a goal on the inside. There was a boom, after the American Airlines Arena exclaimed, "There was a boo." A buckle. A buckle after the air coupling. Angzi really has a lot of energy. There is such a violent performance as soon as he enters the field. The 76ers bench also boiled all of a sudden, and the bench players kept yelling, "Good job. Pretty. Destroy them. We want to win." Angzi completed a very morale dunk, he and several of his teammates each high-five, and then patted his own hands, "Come on, prevent their attack, we want to win." On the court, offensive and defensive conversion, Miami backcourt, Mario Chamos dribbled the ball through halftime, and then directly to Dwayne Wade. Wade beckoned Bosh to give himself a pick and roll. After the pick and roll, he reached the basket. Omer Asik could only make up the defense. Faced with Asik's back to the basket, Wade forced a layup. It actually went wide, and 11 jumped out from the other side and grabbed the rebound. And 11, who grabbed the rebound, made a quick break, regardless of whether his team's inside line could keep up. He took the ball and rushed to the front court. While the Heat was not firmly established, Angzi rushed into the basket and directly caught the Heat by surprise, and the layup succeeded. 62-72, the score difference was reduced to 1-0 with Angzi's 4 points in a row. David Fizdale on the sideline suddenly jumped up, but he calmed down, who had always been quite gracious, and called a timeout. But another fan is not so polite. Floyd Mayweather, the American boxing champion, has bet as much as $250,000 on the Heat. Seeing the Heat swing or stumble, if you lose a game, your own $250,000 can really be lost. Although boxing makes a lot of money, the money he earns from boxing is also from one punch and one punch by himself. It was so frustrated. Mayweather said he didn't feel distressed. It must be fake. And now, if the Heat still can't completely limit Angzi, it's not impossible to lose. So, Mayweather was a little anxious. He scolded his mother on the sidelines and waved his fist to vent his dissatisfaction. The scene on the sidelines seemed to notice him. Mayweather was taken aback and hurriedly sat down again. After a short timeout of 20 seconds, the 76ers did not do anything special here, that is, based on the defense, let Angzi play more off the ball, looking for opportunities without the ball. The Heat have made some adjustments. They replaced Mario Chalmers with Courtney Lee. No one can understand this employment yet, but David Fizdale is definitely not going to make a meaningless one of substitutions. So, People on the sidelines began to speculate whether the Heat are going to let Courtney Lee defend Anzi. Heat's offense: Wade dribbled the ball over halftime, he handed the ball to Bosch, Bosch singled Gasol, but the turnaround jumper still missed, the insider Asik protected the rebound, the 76ers ushered in and continued to shrink opportunity to divide. David Fizdale on the sidelines can't help being a little impatient. He also called a timeout, but the team still didn't score. It seems that he made a lot of defensive adjustments in the last timeout, but he didn't have time to say on the offensive end. But next, it's time to test the Heat's defense. To be continued. Super Role Player. Author, Yuan-San Buletinji. Chapter 516. Anzi came to the offensive end, and he found that the Heat really switched defenses. They replaced Courtney Lee and let Courtney Lee defend Anzi full time, so that they would not be afraid of missing Anzi at the critical moment. But what is surprising is that Anzi played the ball very simply. After hibernating in the bottom corner for a while, he went around directly and received the basketball at the top of the arc through Asik's screen. At this position, he hasn't completely shaken off Courtney Lee's defense, but an 11 shot directly. An outside three-pointer. David Fizdale's eyes widened. Is this guy playing a wave? But the next second, with a scream, an 11 made a three-pointer against the defense. Go in again. The fans in Miami exclaimed. They were still chanting defense and they suddenly lost their voice. Anzi scored the fourth three-pointer in the game. After reappearing in the second half, Anzi was in a hot state and scored 7 points in a row. At 65-72, the point difference between the two teams is only 7 points. David Fizdale can play all the cards. Can they stop the 76ers from narrowing the point difference? Anzi showed a strong performance after returning to the field. David Fizdale could only command his team from the sidelines to do his best in the next round of offense. The Heat's offense, seeing their lead is getting smaller and smaller, their offense has become very important. The Heat need to score and continue to maintain their lead. Dwayne Wade holds the ball, facing Jack Lauder's defense, he chooses to break through. After the breakthrough, Dwayne Wade attracted Anzi's defense. Wade glanced at the bottom corner from the corner, and LeBron James was already in front of him. So Wade passed the basketball directly to the bottom corner. LeBron James didn't choose to shoot. In this game, his outside touch was mediocre, so he chose to cut inside. At this time, an 11 made up again and blocked LeBron James's only way to the basket. But when LeBron James rushed to the position of a step in front of Anzi, he already raised his hand to send the basketball towards the hoop. Anzi didn't even think about it, and suddenly reached out and patted it. But this time Anzi missed the position, and first took a picture of LeBron James' wrist, and there was a clear bang. The referee then blew his whistle to signal Anzi's defensive foul. An 11 shrugged and stepped aside. An 11 fouled. He was going to block the shots, but the shot was too cruel. It seemed that he couldn't find the correct position. Kenny Smith in the commentary also shrugged and said with a smile. This is Anzi's fourth foul in this game, not less. He still needs to pay attention to the number of fouls. Craig Sager took a look at the technical statistics and said. LeBron James stepped to the free throw line, a corner of the court faintly sounded the shout of MVP. LeBron James did a good job in this game, the 3 quarters are not over yet, he has already scored 27 points, 5 rebounds and 7 assists. The Heat have the best team. But Anzi is not bad. Although the performance in the first and second quarters was poor, Anzi passed 3 three-pointers in the second half of the second quarter and his performance so far in the third quarter. He has also scored 29 points, another 3 rebounds and 4 assists. The overall performance was still overwhelmed by LeBron James. So, now the lead is still the Heat. LeBron James stepped to the free throw line and made 2 free throws amid the faint MVP shouts, extending the point difference to 8 points. 76ers offense, Anzi continued to run without the ball. After passing Ulmer Asik's mid-range screen, Angzi went around the other sideline and received the basketball. Courtney Lee's task is to follow Angzi, so he keeps following up. But an 11, who received the basketball, still shot. He took a step from the three-point line and shot the basketball. Courtney Lee also jumped up, his defense did not lose his position. But the ending is still the same. In the disappointed eyes of the Miami fans, the basketball once again went through the net frame and went in again. This is Angzi's 9th point in the third quarter. It was also his 9th consecutive point, and because of Angzi's goal, the point difference narrowed again, 67-73, with only 6 points left, and only 2 three-pointers were needed to tie. With 2 minutes left in the third quarter, the 76ers have a chance to smooth out the lagging points before the end of the third quarter. At this time, the Miami fans and commentators who thought the Heat had won were no longer able to calm down. The 76ers were coming and the Heat seemed to be in a downturn. If the Heat did not break out, the 76ers should equalize the score. And then gradually won. Perhaps David Fizdale should consider letting the Big Three come down to rest. The Big Three who played in the third quarter are obviously exhausted. Look at Angzi. After a 2-minute break, he scored 9 points in a row. Compared with the Heat, it's totally different. Charles Barkley sincerely offered his opinions in the commentary. David Fizdale must be inaudible. Even if he did, David Fizdale would not dare to let the Big Three stop. All David Fizdale can do is call a long timeout, adjust the tactics, and let the main players rest. After the timeout, David Fizdale also made a substitution. LeBron James of the Big Three could not move. Considering that the threat to the 76ers by Jan Weeki from outside is very big, so David Fizdale considered at once, he chose to replace Bosh with Rashard Lewis. On the one hand, he let Bosh off the court to take over the game in the fourth quarter. On the other hand, he let Lewis come on the field and provide a more stable three-point firepower. The timeout ended and the two teams returned to the court. LeBron James began to control the ball on the offensive end. After halftime with the ball, he did not intend to stop. Instead, he directly controlled the ball and rushed towards Angzi, then crushed it all the way into the penalty area. In the penalty area, LeBron James was very careful about his layup. In order not to be covered by Angzi, he first made a fake move to deceive Angzi's defensive center of gravity before slowly putting the basketball into the hoop. LeBron James broke into the penalty area and scored 2 points, finally stopping the bleeding for the Heat, and the point difference returned to 8 points. The American Airlines Arena became lively again, with cheers one after another. And when the 76ers made a mistake on the offensive end, Mkawa's pass to Angzi was almost interrupted. Although Angzi robbed it back, but hurriedly faced LeBron James' defensive miss, the American Airlines Arena was like having already won the game. There were huge cheers, and even some curses. "China guy, you are a trash in front of LBJ. LBJ, go him *, we need victory." And 11's face was cold, seemingly unresponsive. As for the Heat's offense, they were still the same as the previous round, with LeBron James holding the ball and moving towards halftime. Listening to the buzzing curses in his ears, an 11 suddenly started from the front court, crossed the midfield, and forced towards LeBron James, who was in possession of the ball. Single player full press? Is Angzi crazy? Isn't he afraid of losing position? Craig Sager looked surprised. And when Angzi crossed halftime, the Miami fans on the sidelines became even more excited. The overwhelming China guy, you dare to press LeBron in the audience, you will pay for it. And 11 didn't seem to hear the ridicule in his ears. He on the court suddenly rushed to LeBron James' side, then stretched his long arms and wrapped LeBron James. Kenny Smith exclaimed, "Death entanglement, Angzi's idea is too bold. He wants to steal the basketball in LeBron James' hands from the back court, but it's too difficult." LeBron James was entangled by Angzi. He made a slight change of direction, and got out of some space. But Angzi also made a lateral move in time, blocking in front of LeBron James, and then used his long arms to aggressively dig out the basketball in LeBron James' hands. LeBron James dodged, and then there was another big change. Time is running out. LeBron James knows that he can no longer entangle Angzi in the backcourt. But an 11's judgment was accurate and the side was lost, and a lateral movement was also timely, which continued to block LeBron James. LeBron James was suddenly forced to a dead end. He had no choice but to turn around and want to pass Angzi. At this moment, the right arm that Angzi has been trying to steal the ball has made progress at this critical moment. The moment LeBron James turned around, an 11's right hand touched the basketball. Angzi jumped, and countless fans on the sidelines showed a look of horror. They couldn't make a sound, but depending on the shape of their mouths, they all seemed to be shouting, "No." When the fans on the sidelines shouted out, everything was too late. Angzi has already taken a stride, holding the basketball in his hands, then rushed out 2 steps, and jumped directly outside the three-point line. Stealed. Angzi actually stole LeBron James. Crushing defense. LeBron James is deflated. And just when countless commentators exclaimed, an 11's next action surprised them again. A direct three-point shot. Oh no. It's crazy. A sudden three-pointer. The basketball drew a deadly arc in the air, like a precision-guided missile, it slid into the basket accurately. LeBron James, who was stumbling in half-court because he was eager to retreat, hugged his head the moment the basketball hit the frame. The key three-pointer. In, it is still Angzi. He used a magical press to defend. And a magical three-pointer, single click to defeat LeBron James. This galaxy of the big three of the Heat. It's about to sink. Kenny Smith directly asserted that the Heat would lose the game when the 76ers were still 5 points behind. Craig Sagal looked at Kenny Smith in surprise. But the final result did not exceed Kenny Smith's expectations. The 76ers made a counter-attack in the third quarter and overtook the score. In the final battle, Angzi completely dominated the game. In the last 18 seconds of the game, Angzi used a murderous backward jumper to change the score to 103-98. In 18 seconds, the 76ers led by 5 points, and the Heat could only play a wave of fast offense. But their quick shot missed and the rebound was snatched by Gasol. The final stage of the game became the foul phase of the two teams. The 76ers kept walking to the free throw line, but the game had lost suspense. In the end, the 76ers beat the Heat by 105-98, 7 points. At this time, not only Kenny Smith was yelling, but countless commentators were yelling, 3-1, the 76ers got the match point. The Heat battleship is about to sink. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen San Buletinji. Chapter 517. Genius remembers in 1 second, and provides you with wonderful novel reading. N. Have won this crucial battle, are you crazy now? After the game, Angzi accepted an interview with Craig Sager on the sidelines. Today Craig Sager looked very energetic in a green suit. He handed the microphone to Angzi's mouth, smiled, and looked at Angzi expectantly. Of course, I am very happy. To defeat such a strong opponent in such an important game is definitely a significant thing for us. We won the game, and this also put us away from the final victory. One step closer. Angzi said that he was happy, but he was not overwhelmed. The whole person was still very indifferent. Although the 76ers have taken the initiative in this round of the series after winning today's game. After all, the series is not over yet. Although the 76ers took a huge lead with a big score of 3-1 and got the match point, Ang knew that the hardest game to play was the next game that decided the 76ers. Can you directly advance to the game? The Miami people have been driven into desperation, so they will definitely lose in the fifth game. Because at this time, they have no retreat at all, and naturally they will come up with a decisive mentality to fight the 76ers to the end. The Heat are almost leading all the way, but you finally completed the comeback. Is this game very difficult? Yes, the Heat played very strong today. They blocked me from the beginning of the game, but in the end we still won. Although it was difficult, such a victory is precious. When it comes to your comeback, you have to talk about your move to play off the ball in the second quarter. After changing to off the ball, you broke free of the Heat's defensive yoke and ultimately helped the team turn the game back into victory. Does that mean nothing? Is the ball form your strongest form? I don't think it's right to say that. Whether it is off or with the ball, the key is to win. An 11 shook his head. I encountered the Heat's strict defense in this game, but when I changed to play off the ball, I was able to break free from the Heat's infinite defense. This is the reason why I changed to play off the ball, but it does not mean that my strongest is without the ball. We just chose a way of playing that is easier to win. The last question, back to Philadelphia next game, will you win this series directly? Ang shook his head again. I will not make any predictions for the next game, but I know that the final winner of this round of the series must be us, and it must be the Philadelphia 76ers. Is also on the sidelines. LeBron James looked at the blood-red scoreboard above his head. He was furious, and after returning to the locker room, he kicked the seat in the locker room severely. The Heat's players are somewhat numb, and it seems that they have long thought of LeBron James. Losing to the 76ers, LeBron James must be suffocated to death. In fact, people still underestimate LeBron James' suffocation. In LeBron James's opinion, the Heat are very close to victory, perhaps only one step away, but they still lost the game. LeBron James always feels the game should have been won, but an 11, who was off the ball, snatched the victory. The Heat have done well enough, whether it's defense against Ang or their own offense. The 76ers, who shouldn't have won the game, won 2 consecutive games at home in Miami. The total score is already 3-1. The 76ers got the match point and only 1 game away from promotion. At this moment, Floyd Mayweather is being interviewed by reporters at the entrance of the arena. The Heat lost 2 games in a row, and Floyd Mayweather is naturally not in a good mood, because his $25 million is leaving him. Only 1 game away from the 76ers to beat the Heat to advance to the next round. Mr. Mayweather, do you think you still have a chance to recover your $25 million? Floyd Mayweather looked a little serious. First of all, I am correcting that the 76ers have not completely secured the victory. Secondly, there have been many times in history when the team fell behind 1-3. I believe in Miami. Believe LBJ, they just took a nap and they will adjust. In a bad mood, Floyd Mayweather naturally did not go to interviews too much. He quickly rejected the remaining questions and left. When the people in Miami are depressed and the sky is dim, the visiting team locker room at the American Airlines Arena is full of joy. Brett Brown asked his players to exercise restraint. After all, they still need a victory to confirm promotion. At this time, Ang stood up. Okay guys, don't be too happy, next we need to go back to Philadelphia to win that victory, so before that, put your victory smile aside, we have to be serious. Ang finished, but more players smiled. Some people laughed, such as Jack Lauder. Ang glared at Jack Lauder, pretending to be serious. Don't laugh. Jack Lauder immediately put away his smile, but the second after Ang turned his head, Jack Lauder grinned again, revealing a pair of big white teeth. Won the game, everyone is in a good mood, they are moving towards the final goal. Brett Brown smiled and clapped his hands. Well, hurry up and pack your things, we rush back to Philadelphia overnight. Brett Brown had just finished speaking, and there was a commotion in the locker room. Then, a few minutes later, the 76ers were ready to go and boarded their way back. At this moment, it was late at night, but the Phillies couldn't sleep with excitement. Jim, Kevin, and Tyrone, or the three of them, drove the modified Ford car and rushed to the airport rumblingly. There were still a lot of passengers walking around at Philadelphia International Airport late at night. Jim got off the bus with the three of them. Among them, Jim asked slightly suspiciously, "Tyrone, are you sure that the team is back tonight?" Tyrone nodded while flipping Twitter. "Of course, didn't you watch it? The fans who went to watch in Miami broke the news. 3 hours ago, the team boarded the plane and it is estimated that it will be in Philadelphia soon. The international airport has landed." Kevin touched his chin. "From Miami to Philadelphia, it usually takes 3 hours to fly, but it should be about to land." "Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up, the better position will be gone after a little bit later." The plane landed at Philadelphia International Airport. The 76ers were awakened with sleepy eyes. It was a bit late at night. Angzi's good luggage on the plane followed his teammates and got off the plane. When I walked to the airport exit, Angzi suddenly heard shouts from the front. 6ER! 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 The 76ers walking in front became excited, and Angzi was also determined to be short of breath. When they passed the gate of the exit, a scorching breath rushed toward their faces. 6ER! 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 Angzi looked around. At least 1,000 local Philadelphia fans came to the airport hall. They shouted like a tsunami, turning the entire Philadelphia International Airport into a red ocean. And when Angzi appeared in front of everyone, the front few fans even screamed, "Angzi! Angzi!" A fleshy American girl squeezed crazily toward the front court, and a strong black man over there slammed away the two white men in front of him, causing the two white men to glare at it. And in the back row, a beautiful woman of yellow race carrying a big bag, erected a fruit phone with a long selfie stick, and yelled amidst the noise, "Dear viewers, I'm the anchor. The current location is Philadelphia International Airport. Now, there is a very unexpected incident in the airport. My plane and the special plane that is said to be the team arrived at the airport at the same time. Therefore, what we see now is that the Philadelphia fans welcome the 76ers. The picture of the return is very shocking. It turned out that this beauty from China was a lively anchor passing by. She saw the shocking scenes and started her live broadcast tour in Philadelphia. Angzi kept waving his hands. It was late at night. The airport did not want accidents, so they asked the 76ers to evacuate the airport as soon as possible. So Angzi and the others didn't have time to say anything, they quickly withdrew from the exit one by one. Angzi thought for a while, he was the last one to leave, folded his hands to cover his mouth, and shouted loudly before leaving, "Don't worry. Everyone, we will definitely win this round of the series." To be continued. Mobile users, please browse and read for a better reading experience. Super Role Player. Author, Yuan-San Buletinji. Chapter 518. The 76ers returned to Philadelphia with a score of 3-1. The enthusiasm of the Phillies made all the Philadelphia 76ers never expected. The passionate shouts and crazy screams made all the 76ers excited. On the bus, everyone shouted and shouted to beat the Heat in the next game. Give back to these lovely fans. The enthusiasm of the fans has come to flatter the 76ers, but in fact, it is not surprising if you think about it carefully. The 76ers lead the Heat 3-1, and they were turned back when they led their opponents 3-1 in the playoffs. There have only been 8 times in history. That is to say, if the 76ers are not too bad, the hope of qualifying for the next round is as high as 80 to 90%. What does it mean to beat the Heat to advance to the next round? means that the 76ers will have a great chance to advance to the finals. Because after the Heat, the 76ers are only one Eastern Conference Finals left, and the Eastern Conference Finals opponents, whether it is the Pacers or the Raptors, cannot be compared with the Heat. In terms of strength, the Pacers are not wrong. It must be worse than the Heat. That is to say, once the 76ers beat the Heat, they will become the biggest favorite of the Eastern Conference Championship, as well as the number 1 seed. For the 76ers, once they beat the Heat to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, this will be their return to the Eastern Conference Finals after 13 seasons since the 2000-2001 season. For the 76ers, a team that also has a glorious history, it can be considered to have completed another revival after 13 years in the Eastern Finals. The excitement and enthusiasm of the 76ers fans is understandable, although the 76ers it's not yet certain to win, but this can't stop the 76ers fans from their heartfelt love for the team. Miami, the 2-game losing streak at home, put David Fizdale's coach in jeopardy, but the Heat will definitely not change coaches at this point, so Pat Riley intervened in the management of the team before leaving for Philadelphia. A critique within the team began. David, what do you think is the reason why the team is behind the 76ers 1:3, under the auspices of Pat Riley? David Fizdale accepted the management's questioning. But David Fizdale really can't tell the truth, he can only say something that is superficial, such as Anzi is too strong, we can't prevent him. For example, our defense is too bad, our key ball is also too bad. But after various reasons, Pat Riley can only shake his head. David, this is not your reason. Anzi is indeed strong, but we have Sean Battier, we have Courtney Lee, many of our full-time defensive players. In addition, LeBron's defense is also very strong. Also, our defense is too bad. It's just like this against the 76ers, and when we are against other teams, the defense is not bad. So, in the final analysis, we still haven't found the most suitable way to play, a restraining 76ers. How to play? As for the key ball, we have 3 all-star players, and the key ball cannot be bad. So the question is, what is the most suitable and most restrained style of play for the 76ers? Pat Riley began to tell the story of the early days of his coaching career. The first time I coached was the Heat. My players included Magic Johnson, James Worthy, and Kareem. It was also a combination of the big 3. We played the most beautiful basketball in the league, called Showtime, and all the teams in the league shouted beat La. But even so, no team can beat us. Because we played a quick offensive and defensive transition tactics. The Heat's team meeting was quite fruitful. David Fizdale's eyes shined. Before the crucial 5th game, David Fizdale was determined to change. When facing his players, David Fizdale chanted, "Guys, we still have a chance." The previous Miami Heat was not the strongest Miami Heat, and the Miami Heat in the next 3 games will be the strongest. Heat is so strong that the 76ers can't stop it, so next we need to change the formation, we need to change the game, we need to speed up. Changing the style of play is easier said than done, especially at the critical moment of the playoffs. Fortunately, the Heat have always valued the quick counter-attack and scoring, so there is still evidence to change the way of play, and it is relatively easy to change. After a day of training in Miami, the Heat took a plane and flew to Philadelphia to prepare for the 5th and most critical battle between the two sides. For the Heat, this is likely to be their last battle. In the semifinals, all 4 games have been played. The Pacers and the Raptors faced off. The Pacers won 2 big wins in the first 2 games, but after the Raptors returned to the home court, they defeated the Pacers in succession. After leading 0, the Raptors were actually led by the garbage in the backcourt, making the series repeat the suspense. It seems that the Pacers' final road is not so easy to walk. In the West, after the Blazers 2:0, they went to Portland with 1 win and 1 loss, leading the Blazers 3:1. There is only one game left to advance. It seems that after the difficulties of the first round, the defending champion is back again. Showed their strength. The Thunder and the Clippers also drew 2:2. After a 1:1 draw in Oklahoma City, they went to Los Angeles and drew another 1:1 draw. It looked very anxious, and Chris Paul, the dream of 11 Jew, still going on. On May 13, 2014, before Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, the Heat arrived in Philadelphia. Then, they held a pre-match press conference in the hotel where they stayed. In the pre-match press conference, the Heat unimaginably showed their confidence from nowhere. After falling behind 1:3 in the face of reporters' questions, does the Heat have any hope of winning this round of the series? The net does not skip words. David Fizdale smiled and said very frankly, "Of course, we still have great hopes of winning this round of the series." Being so self-confident to fall behind 1:3, hearing what David Fizdale said and seeing David Fizdale's actions, the local reporters in Philadelphia were a little unconvinced. David Fizdale continues to smile because we have found a way to defeat the enemy and the situation in the series will be reversed in the next round. Is the way to make you so confident? I don't like to talk about tactics before the game, so I refuse to answer this question. In history, there are only 8 examples of 1:3 fall behind. Do you really think your team will become the 9th team? Yes, since there are 8 teams that have done this, why can't we be the 9th? David Fizdale's self-confidence was surprising, and when the content of the pre-match press conference was passed to the 76ers, many players expressed disdain. Where did the blunt self-confidence come from? In interviews with the media, all of the players said, the Heat are just being hard-headed, and the series will end in the next game, and they cannot go to Miami again this season. But at this time, Anzi felt a little bad. And at this time, the league announced the list of players selected for the best defensive team. Players selected for the best defensive first team this season include, Pacers Paul George, Thunder's Serge Ibaka, Clippers Chris Paul, Bulls Joakim Noah and Anzi. Anzi was selected to the all-defensive first team. This was the second time in his career that he won a first defense. In his rookie season, he was also selected as a second defense. 2 defenses, 1 defense, 1 second defense, and Anzi's defensive honors have also accumulated. Enough of it, only 1 trophy for the best defensive player. The best defensive second team players include, Patrick Beverley of the Rockets, Jimmy Butler of the Bulls, Andre Iguodala of the Warriors, Kawhi Leonard of the Spurs, and Roy Hibbert of the Pacers. In particular, the second defense's selection list has a sense of unpopularity. The failure of Mark Gasol, LeBron James, and others is surprising. But I was surprised, people are even more in awe of the rookies produced in the 2011 draft. Among the first defense and second defense players from the 2011 NBA draft include Anzi, Jimmy Butler, and Kawhi Leonard. Judging from the performance of the season, the 3 are all promising. Their playing styles are very similar. Anzi made his defensive debut, as did the other 2. But at the beginning of his career, Anzi's three-pointer was excellent, Kawhi Leonard's three-pointer was slightly worse, and Jimmy Butler's three-pointer was terrible. Among the 3, Anzi has the best development. Now Anzi is already a supergiant in the league. Kawhi Leonard is the less developed one. Kawhi Leonard is on the road to a superstar in the league. Jimmy Butler, the worst player, is already the biggest for the Bulls this season. Combined with Klay Thompson, Iman Shumpert, Eto'o and more from the 2011 NBA draft, the 2011 NBA draft, unexpectedly emerged so many players based on 3D players. To be continued. Recommendation ticket required. Recommendation ticket, is written by members of No *Wrong Small Said Net. For more chapters, please go to the website.